Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Kryptic TMG, and finally we are back for the AOR GT3 Elite Season 9 Championship. And this season I've picked the Renault RS01, pretty much because the car is just stable. Last season, in the test season, so many mistakes, so many spins in the Audi. I thought I'll go with the Renault. The Renault felt pretty good. Obviously, I knew going into it that it probably wasn't a match for the Ferrari, but at least it was a car I knew that I'd probably not be making too many mistakes with. So yeah, finally we're back. Bit of a long wait. I think it was when was it November time last year, the championship finished, I think. Yeah, way too long of a wait. End of February, first race is at Circuit of the Americas, and going into the race I was confident but also a bit wary, because every time we seem to practice, the track conditions just seem to be different. I don't know what it is, but definitely with the live track, it's something dodgy. It just feels funny to me. Sometimes you go in and you've got loads of grip, and sometimes you don't. But this is the best qualifying lap I managed. I actually qualified on the hard tyres. I was going to run the softs, but it's just the last sector just seemed to understeer. But you can see going into turn one, there's just no grip. The car just slides, and we've already lost loads of time going through there. But I decided just to carry on, because as you can see at the moment, I was in 8th place and I still hadn't managed to get in any sort of banker. But going into this section, I've missed the entry, which has just messed up my run through the S's. And at this point I just thought, just hurry up and get a lap in, because I'm probably gonna go for another lap after this one. But you can see just the grip's just not there. I just felt like I had to just sort of feather the car through all the corners, and it just wouldn't turn in. So pretty weird, because the Renault normally is a car that just turns in at will, but just couldn't get the thing to turn in on the hard tyres. I was very tempted to take the softs for quali, but the last sector in practice was just so slow compared to what I was doing on the hards. So I decided just to go with the hard tyres. But in the Renault, it took about maybe four or five laps to even get the tyres really where you wanted them. But again, this corner just seemed to be a real nightmare, so had to brake a little bit early and just be a little bit safe. But this section was the section where I thought the hard tyres would be better than the softs, but even then it was still no grip. It's a thing that I experienced with the Audi as well, where it really struggles to heat up tyres in conditions that are sort of between hards and softs. And the Renault's pretty similar. It just does not get the temperature, and the car just doesn't feel ready, and it seems to just take time. But in qualifying, obviously you don't have the luxury of time. But you can see there, obviously I haven't got the steering wheel on, so you can't actually see my steering inputs, but it was just pretty much opposite lock every time you wanted to push for a corner. Managed to come through anyway, managed not to make too many mistakes on the lap, even though it felt pretty poor. And yeah, into the 206s, but it was definitely nothing special. We end up actually in 6th place, and yeah, it was a lot slower than what we'd done in practice. In practice, I think CJ managed to get in the 203s. We were in the 204s, so yeah, a long way off where we're supposed to be. But you can see ahead of us there, that's not someone moving before the lights. It's actually water, whose connection was just crazy. It was putting me off, and I actually ended up stalling. And then lucky that no one ran into the back of me, but yeah, I was looking at that connection, I was thinking, Jesus, that's going to be a problem. But on the out lap, having to use hard tyres for the race, the soft tyres, there was just no chance they would last. And I think that's like some of the issues. A lot of people talk about the Ferrari being OP, but I don't think the Ferrari is OP, maybe not over a single lap where it's sort of a second quicker than anything else. But I think in race conditions, I think it's a lot quicker than anything else. It's just the best race car, not necessarily the best car over one lap. There is other cars that you can sort of churn out fast laps with, but I think in the race, the Ferrari is the best. It heats its tyres up the best, and it just seems to keep it sort of. It just seems to keep intact in a race. It just doesn't really fall off. Where when I drove the Audi was dodgy in a race. That's why I haven't really picked it this season. You'll see there's not really, I think 1 or 2 people have picked the Audi, but yeah, obviously since the latest patch as well, I don't think the Audi's sort of been favoured, if you like. But yeah, coming up to the start now. and it's all about trying to get the jump and making sure that I get a decent start. Normally I was getting pretty crappy starts last season, but thought I got a pretty decent start there. Had Man Bear Pig on the left and had Foggy in front, but I could see Water in front of him lagging, so I took it pretty easy going into turn 1, and I just drove around the outside and waited for the carnage. You can see there the lag has completely smashed Carl off the circuit. We get a warning, but obviously there's nothing we could do about that. Carl was off the circuit, and you see there the understeer. I couldn't even go around that corner flat out. It was crazy. And through this section, the cars is literally like driving on ice. It was literally like driving on ice. I had no grip, nothing. See, we slightly cut the corner there as well, and Walter's car in front is just glitching all over the place. It's so off-putting, but I mean, just had to try and focus. And to be honest, like, even when making this video, I was watching it back thinking, wow, the amount of glitching is just spoiling it. It's just spoiling the race for people who want to see it. But yeah, I had to do what I had to do. You can see the car there just did not want to turn in. I don't know what it is, but the grip levels were just insanely bad. I didn't understand, and that's what I'm talking about with the Live 0.0. I just think, for me, I don't think it works. It's simple as that. I do not think it works properly, because you can practice in the same conditions. You can even do race runs in the exact same conditions as the race, and sort of get in 2:05.3s in race pace straight away. And then you can come to a race and you'd be struggling to get within 2 seconds of your own times with the exact same setup. So it's very weird. But you see, just the turning in just wasn't happening, and I knew that the Ferraris, they light their tyres up instantly in these sort of conditions. The Ferraris got great temperature through the tyres almost straight away. You can see CJ and Walter even just completely pulling away, and we've got Carl behind us. I think behind Carl is it Gibbs, or I'm not too sure, or I can't, it was Gibbs BMX or something like that. I'm not too sure what his name was, but yeah, he was also in the Ferrari, and it was just pretty much me trying to battle the Ferraris at this time. And you can see cars behind us, but I knew, especially the first 5-6 laps of the race, I wasn't going anywhere. I wouldn't be able to really push too hard because the car just wasn't up to speed yet. But CJ pulling away in the distance, Water also pulling a gap, but his car was just putting me off, to be honest. So I couldn't push. I wasn't too sure whether his car was gonna like sort of glitch back into me and blow me up. So I pretty much just tried to keep calm and make sure I didn't make any mistakes, because it would have been so easy to drop it with that car keep on parking itself in the apex. But you can see Carl, he's behind us, he's caught right up and right behind us. I know Carl didn't really have a lot of practice, so I knew that maybe he didn't know what it was like right at the beginning of the race, but as soon as he sort of got up to speed, he'd be pretty quick. And you can see, like, it's just got way more grip. See us going through this corner here, we let off and it's just pure understeer going through the corner, and it's crazy because in practice it was nothing like this. But I tried to brake and I was going to go down to second gear, but I could just feel the car would have just got loose, so I just had to straight line it and keep it in third. Car went through, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But I didn't want to lose too many positions, because I knew sort of the second half of the race, where the temperature warms up, when the track warms up, the car will start coming towards me a little bit more. But yeah, it was pretty difficult trying to hang on to the guys in front. You can see every time we come to turn 1, the car it's just sliding in, and it's just nothing we can do. I even, because of how qualifying felt, I even changed the engine braking, which would supposed to give me more stability under heavy braking, and it just didn't make a difference. All it did was give me loads of understeer through the S's, so even that didn't work. And it's pretty crazy. I had an evaluation race the other day, and the car was fine. There's no issues, and it was just nothing like that. I'm not too sure. The temperature wasn't too dissimilar to what it is now, so I'm not sure what happens on this game. But it's definitely a lot different from P-Cars 1, when normally when you practice for something and then you go into the race, it felt how it felt in practice, so you was always able to sort of know what times you'd be getting. But on this game it's just totally different. Every race seems to be a lottery to me, and the only way that you can sort of guarantee that you can have a semi-decent race is if you just make sure you just don't make mistakes, and that's pretty much all I could try and do. But anyway, had Carl in front of us going to the hairpin. You can see him also struggling at the hairpin corner, and it was crazy. All the corners that I knew that I was struggling to, I tried to sort of take really slow, really careful, but you'd still get the opposite lock. And you can see we've got the other Ferrari behind us now, putting us under pressure, and still Walter's connection is just so off-putting. Even though he's, what, must be about 3 or 4 seconds down the road compared to us, his car just seems to be parked on every apex for some reason. I don't know, so it's a very weird thing. In AOR, we all have to sort of pass a connection test sort of thing, so I'm not sure why his connection is so bad, but you can see Carl gets a pretty poor run out of that corner, and we get a little run on him. And I would say that the Renault is quite surprisingly decent down the straight, especially if you get in the slipstream. Normally the Ferrari on previous patches used to blow everybody away, but I think the Ferrari's speed is more in its acceleration now than its actual top speed, which is a lot better, because before it was just way too quick down the straights. But yeah, this section behind another car was just torture. So much understeer, so much understeer. Carl at the moment with a 1 second penalty, so we know if we stay within a second then we should pick up the position at the end of the race, but obviously he'd have time to sort of build a gap, so I was just trying to stay as close as I could, so before my car gets up to speed and I can start attacking a little bit more. But to be honest, it just, I don't know, the car just felt weird. It just felt weird, and my whole thing this season was just don't make mistakes, don't spin it, don't drop it, don't do anything stupid, and that's pretty much what I was just trying to do, trying to make sure I just kept it on the black stuff. And you can see Carl starting to pull away a little bit at the minute, and I still had a Ferrari behind me, so it was pretty much, do I try and push and stay with Carl, or do I just try and run the pace that I'm running, because it's only going to end up in a mistake. But the problem was, is even when I wasn't pushing, the car still felt like it wanted to get away from me. I think the next race I might put the hands on the wheel so you can actually see my steering inputs, because literally opposite lock on the exit of every tight corner, and it was doing my head in. It was crazy. I was thinking, what can I do, what can I change while I'm on track? And to be honest, it wasn't really much I could do. That's just what it was. I just had to deal with it. And I'm normally someone that I like the back end to be planted. I like to be able to break into a corner and know the back end's not going to come round, even if it means I've got to deal with understeer. I'll rather have that. So to have that problem, it really, for my driving style at least, yeah, it's just never going to be able to push, because I always sort of rely on the back end of the car being planted on corner and turning. So yeah, pretty annoying. But anyway, moving further on lap 6, going down the back straight, still relatively close to Carl, and you can see his back end was pretty much doing the same thing our back end was doing, so it wasn't allowing him to push either, and he was actually also experiencing water lagging, so it wasn't just me. I think it was pretty much everybody could see the lag, and yeah, it's pretty hard to push when you've got that in front of you. You can see it just parked on all the apexes, and just crazy. I think Carl somehow gets a slow down there, and that allows us to close right on the back of him through this section where it's just pure understeer, so I had to keep letting off a little bit. And going into this corner now, trying to stay close so we can get a run up the pit straight. The back end of Carl just comes round, managed to dodge his car, and that's us up into 3rd place. And yeah, just Walter and CJ ahead now, the 2 Ferraris. And I wasn't even really expecting to catch Walter, because I just thought, with that going on, I'm not even going to know if I'm side by side. I'm not going to know anything. I just didn't want to pick up any damage, because I know on this game 1-2% damage and your race is over. You're just getting killed down the straights. So yeah, I just wanted to just run my race, see if I could pick up the podium, and that was it. Now I can see Ronaldo behind us, and he was in the Lamborghini, and I think he must have had a pretty poor qualifying as well, because he was someone who was pretty fast and somehow ended up starting like near the back of the grid. So I definitely think a lot of people do experience a sort of weird feeling, weird sort of handling in qualifying. But you can see Walter made a mistake. I wasn't sure if that was him lagging or whether it was actually him, but it was actually him. He sort of spun off through the S's, and that's us up into 2nd place. And I pretty happy, to be honest, to start 6th, have a rubbish qualifying and get up into 2nd place. I was pretty happy. I knew CJ was gone, so I wasn't really thinking about the race win or anything like that. I didn't actually notice at the time until I was told that CJ had actually spun as well, so he'd made a mistake almost at the same place as Walter did, but obviously earlier on in the lap. So yeah, it seemed, I thought the Ferraris maybe they're dropping off, maybe they're getting a little bit difficult to drive, as my car was for the first part of the race, but I still had to just keep pushing on, keep making sure that I was just where I needed to be, don't make any mistakes. I knew that if I could just keep getting good exits from the last corner and a good exit to the corner going on to the back straight, that would be quite difficult to overtake, because especially in the last sector, these corners and the S's, it's really hard to follow a car. So I thought if I could just sort of be decent through these corners, then I can maybe hold on to the position if anyone was to catch up to me. But you can see there we're still getting understeer, and yeah, it was pretty hard. I mean, the Renault, if you've driven it, is a car that you always expect. Turning in is probably the last thing you need to worry about. The turning in the Renault is pretty good, pretty stable, but for some reason in this race the car didn't turn in, stability wasn't there. It was crazy, can't explain it, but it is something that has happened to me before, especially when I used the Audi last season. But yeah, we worked quite hard on the setup, so it wasn't even a setup issue. I would go into practice, or we do a practice race, and I'd be well off the pace, and then we'd go into another one, I'd be well on the pace, and then we'll come to the race and I'll be well off the pace. It was crazy. I think in practice we did a race where I did like a low 205, and then we did another race, exact same conditions, same setup, and I was getting 2-minute 10s and 2-minute 9s and stuff. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I don't really know what to think of it. But pretty much after we got into 2nd place, to be honest, it was just pretty boring. Nothing really happened. It was pretty much just me driving around trying to see if I could attack any of these hairpins, but it just wasn't happening. The car just wasn't there. So I was really tentative going into the corners, especially the one after the long straight and turn 1, because those were the 2 corners where I felt like I'd spin the car, if any. So yeah, it was pretty tricky, but seen Walter obviously made a mistake, so Ronaldo up into 3rd place, and it was just pretty much just try and keep the gap, try not give him any incentive to close me down or start pushing, because obviously the gap was pretty big and there was only 25 minutes of the race left. So I just wanted to just close the race out. I was happy with 2nd, put it that way, because if all things being normal, I probably would have had a massive battle on my hands to get a 2nd place or even a podium. So I didn't want to take any more risks, and I didn't really need to. But you can see lapping in the 2-minute 7s, crazy, a good 2 seconds off the pace of where we thought we should be. And yeah, that was just pretty much how the race was going, just in the 207s, couple of 206s, and yeah, just couldn't really explain the pace, couldn't explain the feeling of the car. But coming up towards the end of the race, only 3 minutes left now. These races are done on time and not on laps, so depending on how fast the leader is, it depends how many laps you got to do. But you see, coming up to lap conjoinants, he hits the curb and absolutely clobbers the wall. And yeah, that was just a reminder, just concentrate. And for these last few laps, the car was really bad. I mean, really bad. It just would not turn in. And when I got to the braking zones, it was just so rigid and crazy. I don't know what was going on, but as I said, I just took it as easy as possible. And you can see here on the last lap, we're like 20 seconds behind CJ now. I think in the last few laps, he took about 6 or 7 seconds out of me in like 2 laps. That's how bad the car was. You can see it there, just not turning in, how slow I'm having to go around the corners. It was just pretty insane. Don't really know what to say about it. It's just crazy. But you can see now the tyres are not that bad. They've worn pretty evenly. The tyre temperatures are not too bad, but the car just handling crazy. You can see us like 2.6 seconds off our own lap, and I don't think we even made a mistake. Go around the last corner, 3 seconds off, crazy. and yeah, managed to come home and get the second place. I'm pretty happy with that, especially after last season where we threw away so many needless podiums and chances of podiums just because we tried to push and tried to just take the car where it didn't need to be. But managed to get a second place in the first race of the season. I'm pretty happy with that. The next race being Dubai International. Dubai is a track that I like. International layout, I mean, is what it is, the same track really, just a couple of corners different. But yeah, should be good. CJ comes home with the win. I'm in second place. Ronaldo manages to get third place on the podium, and 3 different manufacturers in the top 3: a Ferrari, a Renault, and a Lamborghini. So yeah, it's pretty good. Hopefully for the next race we can at least have a decent qualifying session. That's important for me. I think I just need to nail a quali so we can actually just start the race from a position where I think that we can actually attack, and hopefully we can get a track or track conditions that actually suit the car and are actually normal or feel normal compared to how the car feels in practice. But yeah, probably a pretty boring race. Apart from the first few laps battling with Carl, wasn't really much going on. It was just sort of just keep your head sort of thing. Once Walter had spun and I had that sort of glitching car out of my way, it was a lot easier sort of to just concentrate and not make any mistakes. Sometimes it would make you jump when you go into a corner and all of a sudden a Ferrari just appears right in front of you. But yeah, I was pretty happy with that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell. If you want to get involved, check out the website Apex Online Racing. Yeah, Kryptic TMG. Peace. See you in a bit.